Hey guys, Brandon Furchess, LS4 King, doing a little bit of a different style product video today. If you've been following me for quite some time, you might recognize a lot of these components. These are some of the items that make up my DOD delete package for the LS4 community. Now, for a long time, we've offered a really comprehensive kit. It's very much so soup to nuts, camshaft, valve springs, push rods, all your hardware, all the gaskets, all the covers. It is a very comprehensive package. But one thing I've found by offering this is that I'm kind of alienating some people, right? Because a lot of guys do this stuff on a budget. They might buy a camshaft one week, get a set of valve springs the next week. They look at my product and they're like, well, you know, I'm not going to buy the whole thing. I'll just piece it together myself, which is totally fine. I support that. You know, that's how I came up building cars. Everything had to be a product of opportunity or very budget oriented because I just didn't have a lot of money growing up. But with that in mind and not wanting to alienate anybody, I've decided to kind of break this kit up and offer essentially the rebuild kit that has all the gaskets, all the covers, everything OE quality that you would need to perform a displacement on demand delete at home. At least sealing up the motor wise. You know, this isn't going to have hard parts like your lifters or your trays. This is just a very comprehensive package of gaskets, covers, hardware. So I want to dive into this and show you what we include with the package and why. So let's start with the covers. Number one is if you're doing a DOD delete, you do need a smooth valley cover. The valley cover that we're going to offer with this particular package is non-vented, which is in line with how the LS4s are plumbed. You know, this will work on other Gen 4 5.3s, but you might want to look at a cover that's more conducive to your crankcase ventilation. If you need a PCV provision, you wouldn't want this particular cover. But again, this is aimed at my community, which is the LS4 guys. So, you know, just kind of choose carefully. But, you know, brand new GM cover, grommet location for the O-rings that close off those stands for the lifter manifold. Each cover includes brand new OE gasket, aluminum construction impregnated with the rubber mold. It also includes the grommets, which just press into the bottom of the valley cover. Some guys like to drill them out, put pipe plugs on the individual stands. I mean, it definitely works. It's a little overkill. I don't see that as being necessary. I mean, anytime that you use good quality gaskets, you're going to be in good shape. So I would recommend just using the stands versus plugging the ports, either by welding or with pipe plugs. But again, that's just my preference. There's plenty of different ways to skin a cat. I think these seals are more than sufficient. So that covers the valley cover. We've got valley cover, gasket, grommets, hardware. Now what I also include is a rear main seal kit. You know, a lot of companies will just give you the rear timing cover gasket and they'll give you a rear main seal, which is great. But, you know, a full cover kit's really not that much more expensive. You're getting a brand new cover. The seal's already installed, so you don't have to mess with it. Comes with hardware. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to me to just step up to the rear main cover kit, so that's how I provide it. Not that these seals are difficult to install, but it's one less thing the end user has to worry about. It's a nice assembled package. So again, rear main seal, rear cover, hardware, gasket. Now, valve covers. Valve cover gaskets, they're just O-ring, OEM style. Depending on who has better availability, typically I'll offer these as Felpro or Moly. I do include the bolt grommets as well, which is an item that a lot of people overlook. These will wear out. They will begin to leak oil over time. You definitely want to replace all those grommets on your factory valve cover bolts. You always want to replace the O-rings. Now on the front half of the motor, the timing cover, I do not offer it as a cover kit. Instead, like we were mentioning before, we sell the individual components like a lot of other manufacturers do. One of the reasons being, the LS4 front cover is unique to the LS4. It actually has a different camshaft position location than any of the other LS timing covers. It is a front style like an LS2 or any Gen 4 motor, but for the sake of not mixing those covers up and having crank and cam correlation errors, we just sell you the parts you need, which is, again, OE style gasket, aluminum, rubber impregnated with a brand new harmonic balancer seal. Now, balancer seal. This is a common failure point on all LS4s. The LS4 is the only LS engine that has a single belt accessory drive. As the polymer elastic in between the two halves of the balancer starts to come apart, that pulley starts to wobble and it kills these seals. So this is a must replace item. Once you've got your timing cover installed, you got your new crank seal in, moving on to the water manifold, you always want to use OE style gaskets again. Now, if somebody tries to sell you these, do not use them. These paper water pump gaskets. These things are trash. You know, they fit, all the ports are in the same location, the bolt holes are in the same location, but they are paper thin because it's a paper gasket. You actually can't run these. The 1/8 inch aluminum gaskets from the factory, believe it or not, do space out your water pump or manifold just enough to clear the head surface. One head on the LS protrudes a little bit further than the rear head in relation to the block surface. I've learned that with motor plates in rear wheel drive applications where you have to run 2 sets of the water pump gaskets. You want to make sure it's the aluminum ones that are rubber impregnated. Do not use paper gaskets even if somebody sends you them. In addition to that, if you have an LS4, you're all too familiar with the fact that we have a water manifold instead of a pump like the rest of the LS guys. So we've also included a brand new water pump gasket. So when you pull that pump out of the manifold, you can replace that as well. Head gaskets, GM quality, 5753. You know, this is what you want, standard MLS head gasket. I prefer these over any of the other manufacturers. I'd much rather see people running these than Felpro or Moly. You know, these will cover most applications. I've made 800 wheel horse on these very gaskets. We sell them because we know they work. Oil pan gasket, very much so like the rest that we've already discussed. Aluminum construction, rubber impregnated. We offer Felpro, we offer Moly. Again, it really comes back to who we can get the product from quicker to get these kits into your hand. So, you know, if you're watching this video and your package shows up and your oil pan gasket has gray rubber instead of blue rubber, please don't freak out. That's just a difference between Moly and Felpro. It's still the same construction. It's still the same product, essentially. Now, when you replace your oil pan gasket and you've got the pump off, you're doing your timing set, all that, another thing you will need to address is the oil pickup tube O-ring. Now, GM does offer several different O-rings, and we've included a variety of them so you can match them up with the correct diameter and thickness of what gets removed from your pickup tube. Interesting to note, if you have one of my Moroso pans, do not use these O-rings. If you already had your motor built, you had a failure, you need to order some replacement stuff, contact me. The Moroso pickup tube uses a specific blue O-ring for that tube. We do have those in stock as well, but chances are if you're buying this kit, you probably don't have a Moroso pan, which is why it's not included. Now, steam ports. It's one thing that's commonly overlooked. Guys pull the cylinder heads off, they pay no mind to them. In all honesty, they don't usually go bad, but it's still something that needs to be replaced. On the front, towards the accessory drive, we have our crossover tube that goes right to the water manifold. You'd want to pull that off and replace these aluminum gaskets. And then in the rear half of the cylinder head, there's just 2 caps, unless you've done some type of 4-port steam evacuation kit. So you would still want to pull those 2 caps as well and replace these 2 aluminum seals on those plugs in the back. And then the last component, actually 2 more components. We have camshaft retaining plate. This is just a metal plate that goes behind the timing gear, has a seal which provides oil pressure to the lifter galley, and we do include hardware with that plate. Last but not least, MLS exhaust manifold gaskets. This is a Moly product. We only sell Moly or Delco when it comes to the exhaust manifold gaskets. Felpro gaskets are more of a charcoal. They're similar in that paper construction to the water pump. I really don't like them. They leave a lot of residue when you remove manifolds, especially if you have an application where you're taking exhaust on and off. You know, a high horsepower race application where you're doing a lot of service. You really want the MLS gaskets. These seal fantastic. You will not have any leaks. They're a fantastic construction. They only go on one way, manifold side down. It doesn't get any easier than that. You know, a lot of this stuff you would think is self-explanatory, but I think that these visual aids are still super beneficial to most enthusiasts. A lot of guys just get this package, they rip it open. I'll get calls all the time. Oh, where's my water pump gasket? Well, they're right there. You know, it's like a lot of people just can't visually identify this stuff off the cuff, and rightfully so. They don't work with it every day, which is why I'm taking the time to do this quick video and kind of outline what you get. So again, this is kind of a condensed version of my DOD delete that might help some enthusiasts out, whether they're on a budget or they're buying things in increments. I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for a lot of you. If you're more, if you're looking for something a little bit more complete that includes a camshaft, valve springs, push rods, head bolts, we can definitely put that package together for you as well. So as always, I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, put them in the comments or email me, Brandon at ls4king.com. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the racetrack this year. Thanks so much.